Welcome to Yeshiva Daf, Shir sponsor Lui Nishma Saim Shalom and Le'Abba Sitzchok. We're holding in Basra Daf Kuf Hey. We're starting the Mishnah of Kudal and base in the bottom. Very self-contained daf, as we'll see. It's like the Mishnah. Mido bechevel ani moicher lecho. A person says, I'm going to sell to you. We learned in the previous Mishnah, we learned in the previous daf, the lashonis that we have. When you start with the Mishnah Kuf Gimel base, that you have a lashon which says mido bechevel. Mido bechevel means that you have an exact. It's exact, precise. Exact. That's the right word. Precise. Then you have another lashon which is hen chaser and yater. Chaser means more or less. Exactly. Exact translation is more or less. Hen chaser and yater. And that means more or less. And the Gemara concluded in Daf Kudal Amud Aleph that when you don't say anything, it's like saying more or less. You don't actually have to say the words more or less. It works well. It says the Gemara now, what happens if he has a contradictory words? He said both. And you always find these very confused people in the Gemara and the Mishnah. Obviously, they give us the case of Toyehi, but this guy says, I'm giving me the bechel, very precise. Hen chaser yater, more or less. He says both. What do we do with that? Betel and chaser yaser mi the bechel. So the last words cancel the first words. Hen chaser yater, more or less, cancels the words mi the bechel. Now, hen chaser yaser mi the bechel. What happens if he said the opposite? He said more or less, and then he said precisely. What do you do with that? Says the Mishnah of Kuf Hey Amud Aleph, Botel mida b'chevel hen chaser yaser divrei bananas. So what is bananas telling us? You always go based on the last words. The last words is what determine for us what are we going to do. And the Gemara is going to bring us, or Gemara right away points out that we don't go Rabbanan arguing bananas. How do you define what banana is saying? This is really the lashon that we know. We're familiar with from other places. In the Gemara, we had a similar discussion, and we'll see parts of it from the Sugya Maseches Bava Metzia. That's called Tfais Loshoin Achron. Take the last words that the person said. Says the Gemara, Omar Abi Abba Mamemil, Omar Rav, Cholkim Olov Chaveirov al Bananas. You know, the Chaveim argue on bananas. They disagree with bananas. What's the chiddush? Tanino, we have it's brought down. We learned it. Story that happened in Tzipori. Always like Maise. What's the story? So a person went and he did 12 zuvim l'shana. Now we have, as the Rishbam points out, if a person goes on and says, I'm going to rent this place for a year for the amount of 12 zuvim, and then Beis Din decided to add a month to the year, they made the year a leap year. So you still pay the same amount because I said a year, whatever the year includes. If he said, I'm paying you one zuz a month, if you had another month, you have to pay another month, right? Shaila is, what happens if you say both? He's saying, I'm giving you 12 zuvim for 1 year. Dinar zav l'chodesh. And he says per month. So what is it?
When he said it, was it Shana Muberes?
The Pashtus, it was before they knew Shana Muberes.
Because maybe the Shana Muberes would be different.
You could say you knew about it. The whole discussion, seemingly there, is we don't know if it will be Shalom Muberes. Beis Din decides it later. Came the story for Rabbi Shimon ben Rabbi for split it. Should split the Chodesh Yibur. Why? Because we don't know what he meant. Did he meant to say per month or per year? I don't know, so I split it. So what do you see over here? So you see over here, if, what's Pshat?
Just because he said something at the end doesn't mean that's the...
So the way the Tosha says, the way at least Tosha attempts to say it, you want to see very, like clearly, right, the way he's defined it, as the Torah says at the beginning of the Amud, Mashu Melachot Nimisab Kalei Le'Abyoisi Itfois Lo Sharishon Yachor. Right? He does not sure. Do I go take the first Lashon and the last Lashon? I'm not sure. Right? So that's what it is. The Rashbam says it also very clearly in the Dumatri Yachloiku. Yiten Lo Schar Chatziyah Chodesh, you pay for a half. The Momon Amuto B'Sovek Cholokim, the Misab Kol Itfois Lo Sharishon Lo Shachar. I don't know if you go based on the first words or the last words. I don't know. So says the Gemara, there I could say, there may be change his mind. Meaning there, it could be that he started by saying, I'm doing the year, and I actually changed my mind. So the question is, what do you follow, the first words or the second words? But could be that he coming to explain himself. What does it mean to explain himself? So the way the Rashbam says it, look at the second wide line, or wider line, not the most widest line. The second wide line at the end, it says, "L'purushim mefarish de'enu maskilo l'shon ha'shlemo, v'yikabel zchius v'sev ha'shon kedin zchius shem shtem esel b'soif, ela midinor zov l'chodesh u'maskiro kedin she'itoy l'hadinor b'kol chodesh." He only says, I want payment on a monthly basis. That's what I want to say. If you want to change his mind, so I could so there I can say the Lo Shalach is not arguing Lo Sharishon. He doesn't want a payment per month. He wants a payment per year. So why did he say the months? To tell you I want you to pay me every month, and also that I can change my mind after a month or two. But now that you're paying per month, I'm still paying on an annual basis. So if that's the case, I don't have a raya that it could be that usually when you have a contradiction, first Lo Shanach. But here I'm not sure if there is a contradiction or it's just an explanation. So that's why I say, so no raya. We're going back to the Gemara. But here they for sure change his mind, maybe not. Kamashwan, that's the chiddush of the Gemara. So the Gemara says no rayo that they're actually arguing.
So what does it end up?
No, we end up with no rayo. We wanted to say that maybe there's a rayo that they're arguing. Could be not. Could be everybody agrees with bananas. So no rayo for me. No proof. Meaning, no, I said it wrong. Meaning what to say? If you would only, the Gemara came Rabbi Abba Ramel Rav and said, they're arguing. Say, well, what's the Kiddush they're arguing? It's Beferish, it's a Bomitzia. Says the Gemara, no, it's not Beferish. Because if I rely on Bomitzia only, I can explain myself that they're not really arguing. But now they came Rav and said they're arguing. That teaches me no, that they're actually arguing. That's a Kiddush Rav said. Our mission is bananas. Meaning, you go not based, meaning, in other words, you take the least amount. What is the least amount? You go look at Loshon Rashbam. Halech HaPois Rishonus. Achar oiso Loshon shemafchis koichoy shelakech. The Loshon that gives the buyer less. The Mesabkele, again, the same reason. Mesabkele, first Loshon Rishon Achor. V'yad HaMoicher shu muchzok b'karka shaloi ale elyoino. Go b'sech hazaka. Hikaecha domer lei mido b'chevel v'en chesa v'en yoser. When he said the Lashonus, Chazin yoiter kol shu, if he gave too much, in other words, Rashbam ends and says, you always go based on the Mosag. So always the seller will be the one who's advantageous. So that's what it is. So the Gemara says, you go based on Chazak. So you want to tell me the Rav Yudah Mashul says, Zu divrei bananas. This is the words of bananas. Mashra, he doesn't agree with bananas. Why are you saying he doesn't agree with bananas? This, if you remember, we just learned it earlier in that Pivav, just a few dapim ago. Then what do we say over there? Someone says, I am giving you kur, but in shloishim, selling it to you for 30, right? So I'm giving you a kur, which is shloishim sale, right? Every kur is shloishim sale. Selling you a 30 sale bunch, calling you one kur, and I'm going to give you 30 for it. So until I don't fill up the kur, what's the din? We didn't finish the sale. You have to finish the sale. What's the completion of the sale? Once you got the whole thing. But as long as we're still busy doing it, you didn't finish it. But if he said, two lashonis, I'm giving you the full kur b'shloishim, and I'm giving you every sale with one selah, because the shloishim is sale. So every single sale is b'selah. Rishon kona. Say that he's koine every one sale. Why? It's a contradiction. He said shloishim for the whole thing. He said one for one. What do you see from here? First lashon achron. I go based on his last lashon. Hello, zu v'sfili. No, you're right. Meaning, Rav Yehuda said in Rav Shmuel, zu divrei benanas. Mashvi disagrees. He doesn't disagree. He said himself, he go based on lashon achron. So no, he agrees. Says the Gemara. Ve'umi svira does he agree? V'omer Shmuel b'bo be'emtza chodesh askinon abo b'tchias chodesh kula maskir b'sei chodesh kula seicher. Going back to the case of Metzia regarding the schirus. So says Shmuel, we have a suffix. I don't know which losh you're taking. He said, I'm giving to you a full year for 12, or giving you every month for 1. So what happens if you have Chodesh Yeshiva? I don't know. He says, you're talking about here that he came in the middle of the month of Chodesh Yeshiva. He says, where's my money? He says, I'm not giving you any money. You're kicked out. So in the middle of the month, the renter already used it for 15 days. Right? And then he tells him, please pay me for half a month. So I'm not paying you for half a month. I'm muhsok. Now, you want to stay here for the next half a month? I'm kicking you out. Eviction. Why? Because the next 15 days, he's a muhsok. The seller's a muhsok. You want to take from me, the owner is a muhsok. So the landlord. So what is Shmuel saying? I don't know what to do. I'm not sure if I'm going with Lashon Rishon or Lashon Achar. I'm not sure. I have to pick and choose. So because I don't know what to do, you go based on Chazakah. So what's the Chazakah? It says Shmuel. We talk about he came in the middle of the month, so they split it. But if he comes at the beginning of the month, so then the landlord can kick him out. If he comes at the end of the month, so then the tenant could say, I'm sorry, you can't take away money from me. That's that. So you see, Shmuel does not agree that you go with first Lashon Achron. Because if you agree with first Lashon Achron, he would say, I know clearly the Lashon Achron is what prevails. Now, before we turn to the next page, very important thesis over here. Because what is Teis bothered by? There's a long thesis on the left. Teis bothered by, so 1 second. Let's assume that he came to us at the beginning of the month. At the beginning of the month, he comes, there's a discussion. Shalom Aleichem. Comes the tenant and the landlord to Beis Din. Say, I don't know, we have two Lashonis that are arguing with each other. What should we do? So we would say, you can't stay an additional month in the apartment if you don't pay. Why? You want to use the apartment for another month, so you need to bring you need to pay for it. Good. Now, past 2 weeks, they go to Beis Din. Says Shmuel, half a month passed. I don't know what the lashon is, so I'm not going to take money away from the tenant. 1 second. You want to tell me just because he grabbed? What happened was he grabbed on to something. Two people argue. Right, I go to Mendy. He said, Mendy, these glasses are mine. And he says, that's not yours. Let's have it. So I grab it. So now you'll tell me that I'm the one who was muhzak? No. I'm not a muhzak. The muhzak means, because the muhzak goes, and this goes into a lashon that Tosfos himself uses, you have cheskas morakama. I have a chazaka. You were the owner till now. The glasses are Mendy or subitz Mendy's. That's it. Doesn't matter if I grab it, I'm still taking away from chazaka. So Tosfos here is bothered. This guy took away the rent for 2 weeks because nobody figured it out. He came in the middle of the month. So because nobody figured it out, that's why he say you don't take the money out. That's what Tosfos is bothered by. And therefore Tosfos says that you have really it really depends if a chesed morakama or not. Here there's no chesed morakama. The only chazok I have is what I'm holding right now in my hand. But this is a very interesting discussion that Tosfos brings. It says in one of Kufiyam base. So Shmuel disagrees. He does not say first Lashon Achra. That's why he says we don't know which Lashon it is, and if we came in the middle of the month, that's what we're talking about. So what did Shmuel say before? We're going to Kur b'shloisha and Yimoricha l'chol, Se'ah b'selo. So we said that he could change his mind. Afil b'se'ah achreinu. Says the Gemara v'hosol tamemayim mishum the tofis. Hachenami hatofis. What does it mean? Meaning, what's the reason by the month, when it comes to the middle of the month, you say that that's what I do, you don't pay? Yachleiku. Because the tenant is holding on to his money. You pay me for the first half, not paying you. And the landlord is holding on, doesn't want to give me the pay. That's very nice. So yachleiku. Meaning you go by chazaka. So over here is also by chazaka. Because what happens over here? The guy is going and measuring one by one. Every one that he measures, the buyer acquires. Someone says, oh, I want to change my mind. So, okay. So status, I don't know which lashon you mean. You mean till it comes to the end? Or every one? So you stay b'chazaka. So the Gemara says, you're right. Shmuel doesn't know if you see the first lashon, reach the first lashon achra. He says it's a suffix. Do you go based on the first lashon or the last lashon? And the Quran. If it's a suffix, so why don't you say that yachleiku? That's just because you go based on chazaka. Who's holding on to it? The buyer. The buyer measured it. So close when the buyer is measuring, he's holding on to it. So that's what it is. You always go. And it's not because Lashon Achra, because it's chazaka. That's what it is. Okay. Maybe just so in other words, because we have a chazaka, we know. But if you know for sure he's changing his mind, so maybe and echanami you're gonna say both. If you look, look at this. We'll see a few lines here in the Rashbam. It's a long Rashbam. One Rashbam over here, he says in the first of all, let's start. Maybe we'll just see from the beginning the Hasom. We'll see a few lines. The Rashbam says the Hasom gabe merchotz. Everyone is holding a half. Who did the Rabbanon that is lean on Basar? You go based on the lowest, in other words, based on Chazaka. Time to do tofis. It's tofis. You don't take out whatever's in his hand. He could have said the opposite, it'll be the same thing. In other words, that goes Lashon Achra is because chazak. Maybe we'll say the opposite. Maybe the Shmuel holds like bananas. First Lashon Achra, Kedom Rishon Shekon, and the first Lashon Achra. Why did he say he came in the middle of the month? The Gemara there said that it could be he didn't change his mind. Could be just explaining himself. Maybe you'll say that way. Why don't you explain Shmuel that way? Says the Rashbam. Going back to what we said before. It says Rashi doesn't agree. Also, he's not arguing with Rav. Right? So the Rashbam addresses why don't you go and say another way to explain Shmuel, and the Rashbam explains why. So the Gemara concludes that Shmuel disagrees with Benanas. But you don't go Benanas or Lashon Achra. The other Rabbanim have a suffix. If we Lashon Achra, and and we have a maskana what to do, you go with Chazaka. Says the Gemara the following. Avuna is quoting Birav. As the Rashbam says, that's Rav Hamnuna. Amir Beirav is Rav Hamnuna. So Rav Huna is quoting Rav Amnuna, who's quoting Rav. Istero meo, istero me'amoi, me'amoi, istero me'amoi, then means me'amoi. Me'amoi istero, istero. What does it mean? So there's many explanations here in the Rishon, but the Rishbam here explains like this. An istero is, the true value of istero is 96 main, prutus. But he said 100. He said istero, and then he said 100. But istero is only 96. Or he said the opposite. He said 100, and he said istero. So he's contradicting himself. Is it 96 or 100? If you want to see quickly, how do we know that istero is 96? Just with a quick cheshbon. So if you look at the Ramatchet Foish Losher and Achroin, Kebenanas, the Rashbam says istero is a selo medino. Fu chatzi dinar. Shu shmini shebesel tzui kedamim b'chiv otegel chaver. Okay? Chatzi dinar, half a dinar, that we're talking about right now, is tishim v'shesh prutus, 96 prutus. Why? How do you know that's what it is? Sha pruto is echad mishmoino b'yisur. Every pruto is an eighth of a yisur. V'achatzi dinar is sholosh meos kesef. A half a dinar is 3 meo kesef, shuvav pundyon. So 3 meo is 6 pidyon. V'apidyon shnei mesoyim. Every pidyon is 2 yisurs. Harei shnei mesoyim yisur chatzi dinar. So how many yisur you have in chatzi dinar? If I have 3 meo, and every meo, and it's 5 pundyon, and every pundyon is 6 pundyon. Every pundyon is 2 yisurim, it's 12 yisurim. Ten lekol yisur ches prutos. We know that every yisur is 8 prutos. Harei tishiv shesh. You have 12 times 8. How much is 12 times 8? 96. Nimtzo mea moi dainu mea prutos. Yistei melistira arba prutos. So here you have a contradiction. In one hand he said 100. In one hand he said 96. Contradicting himself. So again, so what am I Abraham? Is there mea moi? Or mea moi? So then he means mea moi. You go based on the last lusher, you say he means 100. Mea moi istiro. If you said the opposite, mea moi istiro. Istiro. My kamash. What's a chiddush? Tfois loshen achor. You go based on the last loshen. How Rav Chadazim no? Rav already said that. Tomer Rav. Then, by the story in Bava Metzia that we saw in Amud Aleph, we have a contradiction. Contradiction of what? Contradiction if he said a full year or per month. Right? So said Rav, no, you go per month. You go to the masker, you go to the landlord. Why does the landlord win? Tfos loshen achron. You take the last loshen. So you see from here that Rav holds tfos loshen achron. So why is so you want to say when you have a contradiction between 196, you say you go to loshen achron. What's the chiddush? Rav already said that. You go to loshen achron. That's a question. Says the Gemara, and now we have here a girsa in the parentheses that it really depends on the different shatim and the rishonim. Do you say this girsa or not? Because the girsa is yid ma'av, leid ma'av, aminu mi'ada koder bei. You could say maybe he's changing his mind. What is perush kamefarish? What does that mean? So here you have a machlekes. What's perush kamefarish? Two mean pshatim. What is perush kamefarish? Let's see. By the way, in this pshat here also several different pshatim in the Rishonim to understand it. But the Rashbam brings two. So let's just see what the Rashbam brings. What is perush kamefarish? So the Rashbam says like this. Rashbam brings, the truth is the Tosfos summarizes very nice over here. But Rashbam says, look at the last Rashbam. It's a long Rashbam. We're not going to see the whole thing. Just see a few lines. The last Rashbam says like this. Not because you take the last Lashon. Remember Amud Aleph? Remember we said it on Amud Aleph. In Amud Aleph we spoke about when a person says, I'm giving you a full year for 12 dinar. And then he says, every month 1. He could say he doesn't mean to contradict himself. He meant to say, I want you to pay me on a monthly basis, or I can kick you out after 2 months. That's all. אלא כיוון ליטול דין לזול לכל חודש, ויראה שבתאבי השונה, פרי השונה דאמר לך יתבייס דין לשונה. So here the Rishbam says something a little different. And that's where the Rishonim have a problem with the Rishbam. He says maybe he's coming to tell Lo B'Shana Mu'beres Kamino, אלא בשונה פשוטה שמגיע דין לכל חודש. דכל היכו, דאיקל המיים הפירוש כמפרש, ולא יוסתרו לשונה זו את זו, ישנו לא ימן לפרש ואינו חוזר מדיבור. He's not changing his words. In other words, just explain. Why is the Rishbam saying differently than Amud Aleph? Because in Amud Aleph, he wanted to say why Loshen Rishon was the correct one. He meant to say a year, not a month. Here, Rav says, it goes the masker. It goes in the month. He says, that's what he meant. In other words, he didn't come to contradict himself. He says, a year, I mean a year which is 12 months, not 13 months. It's going based on the last Loshen, explaining the first Loshen. They contradict each other. I'm sorry, I said the last response, not the last response, going for the last. That's what it is. Right? So the Rishbam says, what's Perush Kamefarish? Perush Kamefarish goes back to the rental. The rental, he's changing his Lashon. We could say, so what is it going to say? What it says, when a person says 196, you take Lashon Achron. So already Rav said it regarding Schirus. Schirus, maybe there's no Lashon Achron, maybe there's no contradiction. Maybe Perush Kamefarish. That is what the Rashbam explains. Rashi in Bometzia says differently. And if you want to look at Taisus in the beginning brings, actually, the Rashbam himself brings it, but I see, okay, let's see the Rashbam inside. Better to see the Rashbam inside. Go down towards the end, in the next Ramatchil, 3-4 lines down. It says V'Rabbeinu Skeni Zetzal B'Bo Metzia, and it says Dafkuv Beisim with base in parentheses. You see Dafkuv Beisim with base in parentheses in the middle over there? It's about 8 lines from the bottom. So Rabbeinu Skeni, so the Rashbam refers to his Rebbe, to his grandfather, who is Rashi. Said to him, Kach Pirish. The 100 to 96, why we should was Lashon Achron? How goes Lashon Achron? And the Hai Kul Echad Lashon Perush Kamefarish is explaining Sela Godol, a big coin, she is Shav Me'er Prutus. V'chi Omer le'Me'er Moi Yistiru Achi Omer le'Me'er Prutus Roi Shein Shav Ela Sela. Right? So, what does Rashi say? Rashi Bo Metzil says differently. He says the Perush Kamefarish refers to the coins. That's what he's referring to. When we said by maskir you go Lashon Achron, so we're not. And why have to see it twice? We want to talk about schirus. We want to talk about the coins. The coins I can explain. Perush Kamefarish. The coins is not a Lashon Achron. I'm just explaining which type of coin I'm using. Not a 100-cent coin, a 96-cent coin. Or the opposite, not a 96-cent coin, but a 100-cent coin. A different type of coin. A bigger coin or a smaller coin. That's what it means. By schirus, you see it first Lashon Achron. It says Rashbam, see one more line in the Rashbam, I disagree completely with my grandfather. That Rav Lav Daf Keister Noka Duodini Kol Mart Segva Prutus. Says Rashbam, the word Easter is only an example. I could have said 96. That's a real contradiction. I was going to say Easter is not a contradiction because they mean to say a different coin. An Easter, which is not a 96, as usual it's 100, or the opposite. Says Rashbam, no, if you said 96, it will be the same thing. So the Achronim were bothered, the Megini Shloimoy, who comes to protect Rashi, says, who said? How do you know that if you said 96, it's true? Maybe the only Rav spoke when you use the word Easter, a dollar bill, which is worth 96 cents or 100 cents. So that's what we have here. The Toysus wants to bring in a third shot. The Perush Kamefarish is going back to Amud Aleph. Going back to say Perush Kamefarish to go Lashon Rishon. Right? In other words, that what? That if you look at the last 3 lines of Toysus, in this Amud, it goes in the next Amud. Well, I believe it's near the Perush Kamefarish don't get mamish kei delay. The Hakat Perush, even by the Easter of Elohim or by the Maskir, have a mini Perush Kamefarish hate the Maskir v'Yekulosei. Meaning, if you would tell me that the learning twist Lashon, if you would tell me only the case of a coin, so then I would say, yeah, case of a course, it was Lashon Hara because it's contradicting itself. But by Schirus, it's not a contradiction, it's an explanation. So I wouldn't have known to go based on the mask. So we have, just to summarize with this, and this will end. The Gemara says over here, Rav said two things. That by Schirus you take the last Lashon, and by the money you take the last Lashon. Says, well, why have to, it's repetitive, why I say it twice? So the Gemara says three answers. It says, Perushka Mefarish, comes the Rishonim say three explanations. The Rishbam explains that the Pshat is Perushka Mefarish by rental of the bathhouse, and not the Perushka Mefarish that we had in Amud Aleph, but Perushka Mefarish, a new Perushka Mefarish that I'm coming to mean only a month. But if it's a contradiction, maybe I don't go with Lashon Hara. That's why I need the coins. Rashi woman says it's the opposite. Maybe Perushka Mefarish by a coins means a big coin and a small coin. But if I have a contradiction, I won't go Lashon Hara. And the Ri in Toisa says that if you would tell me only the case of a coin, I would say by Schirus, you will not go based on Lashon Hara, go based on Lashon Rish, because it's not a contradiction. So I want to tell you that in all the cases that he holds a contradiction, and you go based on Lashon Hara and according to Rav. Say